Welcome back, YouTube, to week number 4 of the 2025-26 NFL football season preview. This is your man Dylan coming to you once again. So let's go ahead and delve into week number 4. So my feature matchup for this weekend is going to be the 425 national doubleheader game on CBS featuring the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens, each having represented the AFC in the championship game the last 3 seasons. That's my future matchup. I'll be discussing this matchup along with a bunch of other matchups in this video, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, headlines from last week. Thursday Night Football, Miami hung around, but they crapped out. They made stupid mistakes. They went to 0-3 on the season with a 10-point loss against Buffalo. Minnesota rekindled the old Purple People Eater defense in a smothering of Cincinnati that should say 48-10, but you know what? 48-3, 48-10, who cares? So, upsets galore. This was block field goal weekend. The Panthers get a shutout of Atlanta 30-0. The Browns win at the horn against Green Bay, having blocked a field goal there. The Steelers forced 5 turnovers to get past New England by a touchdown. The Eagles blocked a field goal. A potential game-winning field goal for the Rams to get the dub there at home. Buccaneers had a field goal blocked for winning at home as well against the Jets. Chargers went to 3-0 on the season, having won all 3 of their division games to start the season, winning this one against Denver by a last-second field goal. And then the Lions win arguably the game of the weekend in a 38-30 barn burner offensive explosion, as I anticipated would happen in Baltimore, 38-30. All right, let's look at the week number 4. So week number 4, the 1 o'clock window is not the best. So you can see there we've got an 0-3 New Orleans team going to 3-0 Buffalo. Yikes! I feel bad for New Orleans, but I really don't because they're just not a good team. First year head coach Kellen Moore just did it. It's been an abomination for that organization his first 3 games, having his most recent loss being a 44-13 drubbing by Seattle. So I feel bad for New Orleans, but Buffalo gets the win, giving Detroit at home. Houston gets his first win of the season. I'm going to take the Giants in a surprise at home against the Los Angeles Chargers and give me New England at home to get the job done against Carolina. All right, 425 and both the Monday matches. I'm not going to be discussing Monday Night Football this week because I think both matches are arguably horrific on so many levels. The alternate 425 game on CBS this weekend will be the Raiders and the Bears. I'm going to take the Raiders at home in that one. Give me the Jets on the road to get the first win. Give me Denver in a blowout against Cincinnati to cap off your Monday. All right, let's get into the good stuff. So, starting tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football on Prime Video will feature a Battle of the Birds in a NFC West rivalry renewed between the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. This one, there's so many interesting aspects of this one. First of all, starting with Seattle. So, they took care of business at home, won by 31 points against New Orleans. They also blocked a punt to go get a touchdown with that. Took a big lead in that first one. It was 28-3 at one point. And they took that lead and they just ran with it and didn't look back. They did lose week 1 to San Francisco in the opening weekend of the season, so that's why they're 0-1 in the division. Arizona on the flip side, I'm going to flip that real quick, so they all should be 2-1 there. So they lost at the horn against San Francisco by a point. They're also 0-1 in the division. This is their second straight opponent, though, in the division and on a short week that could have a little wear and tear on the team. So, the nice thing with Arizona's schedule is that after they get done with this game, they're also going to have that little mini break in there because they don't play till the following Sunday. But they get some extremely winnable games against Tennessee. The Colts could be a winnable game, and then I think the toughest one of those 3 will be taking on the Green Bay Packers. Even though it's in Glendale, that could be a hard one. Arizona is a 1.5 point underdog on Thursday Night Football. Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, and Kelly Hartung are on the call for this one, as usual. So, if this one was in Seattle, I think this is a no-brainer who I'm picking. But, because this one is in Arizona, it adds a little bit of a twist to it. So, on the injury note, it looks like James Conner, the ageless running back, has been put on IR for the Cardinals, so he's going to be out for at least the next 4 weeks. Besides that, nothing really worthy of note on the injury front for Arizona. On the Seattle side, pretty much the same thing. Nothing really major going on there. So you have all the weapons in this one. The thing, though, is that Arizona just didn't look crisp on offense. And when you have that lingering feeling that you're just not going to look good on offense, it kind of carries into you, especially on a short week. I just think you got to go with the team that's more prepared, looked better last Sunday, and that, in my opinion, that was by far the Seattle Seahawks. Regardless of if they're playing a crappy team or a good team, if you take care of business and dominate your opponents, I think that spells volumes to your team. So I want to take Seattle on a road divisional win on a Thursday night, tomorrow night actually. They'll go to 3-1 season. Arizona will follow 2-2, and Seattle, for the moment, will take the NFC West division lead. All right, our second matchup will kick off our international series for the next month. We will be having a game at 9:30 a.m. exclusively on NFL Network. This matchup will be featuring a intra-conference matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both teams are at 2-1. So this game is going to be played in Dublin, Ireland, the first time they've gone to Ireland ever. Rich Eisen and Kurt Warner will be on the call. I don't know who the sideline lady is, but it's someone. Once again, 9:30 on NFL Network, so Sunday morning. Pittsburgh is a 2.5-point underdog as the quote-unquote home team. So, starting with Minnesota, Carson Wentz will start again. There will be no J.J. McCarthy out again with an ankle injury. And Minnesota makes history. They'll also play next week in London, taking on the Cleveland Browns. So they'll have back-to-back international games for the first time in NFL history. But in their last performance in the United States of America, they took care of a crap-tastic Bengal team, winning 48-10, forcing 4 Cincinnati turnovers in the first half. This is not the last time that Cincinnati has done this in the last 25 years, but this one, wow. So even with Carson Wentz, they look pretty good. On the flip side, with Pittsburgh, they had to force 5 New England turnovers, 2 of those coming inside the 5-yard line with New England about ready to walk in to score. They got 4 fumbles and a pick in that one. They end up surviving on the road 21-14, which, I mean, winning on the road in the National Football League is already difficult enough. So, by any means necessary, it's not going to be pretty. They get the job done. So, after they go to Ireland, they're going to have a bye week. And just like I did with Arizona, after their bye week in week number 5, it sets up quite nicely. You get to take on a Cleveland team that I don't know what they are, but they're not good on offense. Going to take on a Cincinnati team on a short week in Cincinnati, but with a backup quarterback that looks like trash. And again, that hard one there is going to be taking on the Green Bay Packers in week number 8. So that's in a month from now, but that's looking way far ahead. But the key thing is that get the win now, go to 3-1, come back after the bye week, and then you arguably have a legitimate shot to be 6-1 after your date with Green Bay in week number 8. So what it really comes down to is I've got a Minnesota team that's looking nah. I'm not sure what the offense was. They won by 38 points against Cincinnati, but it wasn't like the offense was going up and down on the field the whole time. Halftime it was short fields, and Carson Wentz was doing his thing. On the Pittsburgh side, you can also question the offense because they just didn't look good. I mean, if it weren't for the 5 turnovers, this matchup it could have easily swung the other way and could have been a romp. I mean, if we look at the stats from the last game, Aaron Rodgers had 139 yards passing. The running attack only has 64 yards on the ground, so it pretty much was nothing. They only had 203 yards compared to New England's 369. So there should have been every reason why they should have lost the game. But again, the 5 turnovers assisted them in this one. So, defense wins championships. We know that's a thing. But in this day and age, I just don't trust Pittsburgh enough yet to say like, oh yeah, guarantee they're going to take care of Minnesota and be a 3-1. So, in kind of a mini upset, which I really wouldn't call it a big time upset, it's just a mini one. I would take the Minnesota Vikings as the de facto road team. You'll get the job done in Dublin, Ireland. They'll take care of Pittsburgh. They'll go 3-1 this season. Pittsburgh will also fall to 2-2 before returning to the States. All right, my third matchup will be our prime time 1 o'clock matchup on Fox. Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi will be on the call for a battle of 3-0 teams. Both teams mounting huge comebacks and craziness at the end of both their games. This will feature the Philadelphia Eagles going on the road to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This one it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, it's got all the parts and pieces. Start on the Philly side. That first half, I watched that first half. That was a first half to forget if you're an Eagles fan. But the second half, you'll want to remember that every time. They outscored Los Angeles 26-7 in the second half. I'll mention this later when I talk about the Rams. But it was like they completely flipped the script. I don't know what they did in the locker room. I don't know if Nick Sirianni just started yelling at people. I don't know if he was like, okay, we need to toss the game plan in the garbage and come up with something brand new on a whim. But whatever happened, it worked. They had the deep ball action. They had Barkley kind of starting to do his thing. But they got the job done against a Rams team that was scrapping for a massive win, 33-26. On the flip side, Tampa Bay, craziness. I mean, between having their field goal blocked and having the Jets score a touchdown off of that, taking the Jets take the lead, they go down the field, they kick the game-winning field goal. It's craziness. Not to mention, all three games for the Tampa Bay this year have been insane. Baker Mayfield becomes the first quarterback. They mentioned this, I think, on NBC before the Sunday night game. He becomes the first quarterback since 1950 to have three fourth quarter comebacks to start the season. I mean, does that spell success down the road? Who knows? A win's a win. A win in September is just as important as a win in December and January. So, a win's a win. Starting 3-0 is a lot better than starting 0-3, just a guess. So, with that said, between the craziness in Tampa and Philly having a complete role reversal in the second half against Los Angeles, this one's just going to be crazy. I mean, it's going to be points galore, and I mean, this is why they put this one at 1 o'clock, because they needed viewership to have something for them to watch come the 1 o'clock window. So on the injury front, if I look at Philly's side, nothing really crazy about that. It looks like Nakobe Dean is still out. He'll be back in week 5. Nothing really severe there. Now on the Tampa Bay side, so the issue will be Mike Evans has had a history with the hamstring problem, and he is doubtful for this matchup, along with Chris Godwin. So that's already your number 1 and your number 2 receivers already down. Now, they do have Emeka Egbuka, who as a rookie has been sensational, but is he going to be able to carry a load against a Philly team that is looking stout on defense ever since that second half and is having positive momentum? I just don't know if Tampa Bay is just up for taking on the big dogs in the NFC, which is Philadelphia. Now, game time temperature and Tampa Bay for this one, I'm looking up the weather right now there. So, in Tampa on Sunday is going to be a high of 88 degrees with humidity sitting at 1 o'clock. We're looking at around 65%. So, it's going to be humid. It might feel like 90 out there, and Philly is just not used to that kind of weather, so that kind of could play to Tampa Bay's advantage. With that said, though, I just trust the way the defense looked in the second half for Philadelphia is just looked too good. And when you look at their schedule coming up, after Philly takes on Tampa here, they get a date with Denver, then they get 2 matchups with the Giants, and wedged in between there's Minnesota. So, arguably, they still could be undefeated by the time they get to their Week 9 bye week. If you look on the screen, there's Seattle, San Francisco, Detroit, and New Orleans as the next 4 games for Tampa Bay before their bye week in week number 8. So, a lot to unpack. But Tampa Bay is a 3.5-point underdog, and understandably so. I just think without Mike Evans, it's going to be difficult for this team to mount another crazy fourth quarter comeback. If it even comes to that against Philadelphia, who has been the cream of the crop in the NFC for the last 2 years. I'm going to take Philadelphia on the road to go get the job done here. They'll go to 4-0, and Tampa Bay will be down to 3-1. All right, moving on to the 4 o'clock matchup. So our 4 o'clock window has got a lot of interesting stuff. There are 4 matches again in the 4 o'clock window, and arguably 3 of them are just matchups. I mean, one of them is a matchup I plan on talking about this season prior to the season starting, but 2 of them at the 4:05 local window is ones that I just did not anticipate coming. Starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars at 2-1 taking on the San Francisco 49ers at 3-0. I would have not anticipated Jacksonville being 2-1 at this point. I thought it would have been 1-2 or 0-3 because I didn't know what the offense was. I didn't trust the new man there. And with San Francisco, I mean, with Mac Jones and the uncertainty quarterback, with Christian McCaffrey being banged up all the time, and having them being 3-0, it's kind of a miracle almost. Now, on the Jacksonville side, they had 9 penalties in their last matchup against Houston as a home team. They had 9 penalties. Not really good. Granted, their defense completely confused C.J. Stroud in Houston. So they did great. They did great there. They were seeking their first 3-1 start since the year they went with Leonard Fournette all the way to the AFC Championship game back in 2018. Now, on the San Francisco side, Nick Bosa out for the season with an ACL tear. It's a clean tear. I mean, it's going to take some major structural work to be done on that knee there to get him ready to go for next year. But that's a big chunk on that defense that they're missing. And if you thought their upcoming schedule will be difficult, I would have to agree. So this is a game that I wouldn't say is a must-have. I mean, you're thinking at 3-0, a win here is a must-have. It kind of is because you got to take on the Rams on a short week on Thursday. Then you got to take on Tampa Bay, and then you take on Atlanta. And who knows? I mean, I know Atlanta looks like garbage now, but in 3 weeks they could look like a $1,000,000. So you never know what's going to happen. Adam and Maine, Mark Sanchez, and Christina Pink will be on the call 4:05 on Fox. So check your local listing to see if the games will be on in your area. So on the flip side, Jacksonville, they get to play Kansas City on Monday, take on Seattle, and then go to London, take on the Rams, and then have a bye week. But I just don't trust either team. That's my issue. I don't trust either one of them. I don't know what San Francisco is. I don't trust the offense with the uncertainty of quarterback. I don't trust Jacksonville with just, I mean, the way they gave up a crap ton of points to a backup quarterback named Jake Browning in Cincinnati is not something gets me convinced that they're going to go on the road against a formidable opponent and get the job done. But there's this, I don't know, there's this thing. I don't know what it is. There's something out there that's just making me think that Jacksonville's going to get the job done. And I want to take the Jags on the road to go 3-1 on the year. San Francisco will also follow 3-1. I just think Jacksonville's looking they're looking for something to prove here. And I think this game might actually put them on the map because with all the star power that San Francisco brings, I just think they can get the job done. And I'm going to give Jacksonville the nod there. That will cover the 3.5 point underdog spread and get the road win. All right, the second 405 game is also equally interesting, also featuring an NFC West taking on an AFC South opponent. This will be the surprise team of the season so far. It's a 3-0 Indianapolis Colts team going on the road to take on the Rams, who, of course, blew against Philly. So, Indianapolis, here's the deal. Your 3 games, you beat the Dolphins, who are 0-3. You beat Denver, who's 1-2. You beat Tennessee, who's 0-3. Your combined opponent's record so far is 1-8. So am I at all impressed that you're 3-0? Not really. If you would came out and be like, okay, I beat Kansas City, I beat Philadelphia, and I beat Green Bay, and you're 3-0, okay, then we have to room to talk. But you took on 3 teams that, let's be honest, you should have beat them regardless of who your quarterback was. But with the Rams, though, so they're 2-1 and having that bitter taste in their mouth after blowing against Philadelphia, having that massive lead. I mean, massive lead. But getting outscored by 19 in the second half. It just, who knows what this is going to be. Kevin Kugler and Daryl Johnston and Allison Williams will be on the call. The Rams are a 3.5 point favorite at home. So, the good thing about the Rams is that they've already taken on 2 of the 4 teams in the AFC South. They defeated Houston in week 1, and they beat the crap out of Tennessee at Tennessee in week number 2. And they still got to play Jacksonville, and they'll play Jacksonville, the Rams will, in week number 7. So pretty much they'll play all the AFC South before their bye week in week 8. So here's the thing. Yes, Indianapolis is looking for their first 4-0 start since they went to the Super Bowl back with Peyton Manning back in 2009 when they lost to New Orleans. This game for Indianapolis is a litmus test to see can you compete and win against the class of either the NFC or arguably the AFC. If they can come out and just not look like crap, then we can have a legitimate conversation about the Colts. This is kind of like how the Bengals were when they played Kansas City the first time back in 2021, and it was like, okay, if Cincinnati can beat Kansas City, they're kind of for real, they need to be on the radar. This is how Indianapolis, and granted, very early in the season to tell, it's only week number 4, but If they can get the job done here, that sets them up for the rest of their schedule, at least for the next 3 games when they take on a Raiders team that they could defeat, a winnable game against Arizona, and then taking on an undefeated Chargers team in Los Angeles. I mean, this could set them up for something that not many people expected, especially for myself. But with that said, we know that the Rams did a great job shutting down Saquon Barkley last week. I mean, they held Barkley, I believe it was 88 yards rushing a week ago. And we know the total tonnage of the offense in Indianapolis goes through Jonathan Taylor. So I think the Rams are out for revenge, and it's not going to be pretty. I would take the Rams at home in this one. They will cover the 3.5 point spread. I just think this one could be bad, but it's interesting to think that Indianapolis has a shot to be 4-0. It's crazy to think that, but give me the Rams at home to get the job done here. All right, we got 2 more matchups. Okay, I know it's a lot of matches this week, but there's a lot of great games out there for at least the NFL on a Sunday. That's great. So feature game of the weekend, a battle of 1 and 2 teams in the AFC, a battle of the 2 teams that have been in the AFC Championship the last 2 seasons will be the Baltimore Ravens going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Baltimore lost against another quality opponent. This has been a theme for Lamar his entire tenure. They lost to Detroit at home 38-30. Kansas City grind out the win in the Meadowlands against the Giants 22-9, only giving up 3 field goals on defense, which only giving 3 field goals to Russ Wilson, who had 450 yards passing and 4 touchdowns against Dallas. It's wonderful. I mean, that's great stuff. So, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, they both fumbled in their Monday matchup against Detroit. Kansas City is in last place in their division. Not something you hear every day, especially with a Mahomes-led team. So, here's the deal. Baltimore has had this stigma for years with Lamar of not winning against the quality opponents at the right time. This can go back years. And I mean, this can go back to Lamar's, I think, 3rd year when they're in the postseason. They're taking on Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans, and they just get outcoached and outmatched. And then you can say the same thing when it comes to playing Buffalo, when it comes to playing Kansas City, I don't know what the deal is. He just can't get the job done. Same thing when he plays any quality team in the NFC, kind of like Detroit last week. It doesn't add up to a win. Now with Kansas City though, they've already played some quality teams. They played the Chargers in Brazil. They already played who was their second loss? They already lost to Philadelphia in the Super Bowl rematch and looked sluggish in all of those games, including the game last week against the Giants. So the problem is you're waiting for the refs to give a game to Kansas City. You're waiting for it to happen. And it usually happens against a formidable opponent. It's happened for the last 4 years or so. So, looking ahead with Kansas City, if they get the job in here, they'll be 2-2. They get to take on Jacksonville in Jacksonville on next Monday. They'll take on the Raiders, they'll take on Washington, and then that sets up a Week 9 battle in Buffalo to really put the class of the AFC on display. But that'll be much later. Of course, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson, 425 CBS. Kansas City is a 2.5 point underdog at home. That's the other issue. Is that Mahomes being an underdog does not really give you a lot of hope that Baltimore's really going to get the job done. So, in my opinion, I think Kansas City is going to get the job done here. Do I know how they're going to get it done? I have no clue. But I would take Kansas City at home to go get the job done here. They're going to grind out another win, which has been their theme for the first 3 matchups this season. But give me Kansas City. They'll go to 2-2, and Baltimore will fall to a disappointing 1-3, and we'll have 2 more matchups before their bye week in week number 7. All right, and my final matchup of this video will be Sunday Night Football in a matchup that's got so many storylines that don't even revolve around just football itself. Okay, so Green Bay going to Detroit. Going to Dallas. Excuse me. Dallas is a 6.5 point underdog at home, which is massive for a NFL game. Green Bay is sitting there at 2-1 on the season. I'm gonna crack that real fast. They should be 3-0, but they lost to Cleveland. And the fact they lost to Cleveland is not a good sign. Now, granted, Cleveland has made good teams in the past look like pure idiots. They did that against Cincinnati time and time again, especially in Cleveland. They did that to Baltimore. If you're a formidable opponent, you look like crap against Cleveland because their defense is just, it's not like the steel curtain or anything or the purple people ears, but it suffocates you and it exposes your weaknesses and takes away your strengths. Now, with Green Bay, of course, this is the first game that Micah Parsons is going to be returning to Dallas after the trade that really went down 4 days before the season started. Now, as a result of Micah Parsons going to Dallas, the defense has only been given up 14 points a game. And that's going to be great news for Green Bay. They'll be licking their chops because they know that CeeDee Lamb left the game last week against Chicago with an ankle injury, and he's doubtful this week. So that means it's going to be Dak Prescott saying a prayer to George Pickens every 5 minutes, and that's only going to take us so far. And do I feel bad for Dallas? Absolutely not. They put themselves on this pedestal. They got themselves into trouble with Micah Parsons years ago by not giving him the record contract extension. So they pretty much shot themselves in the foot with them. That's all Jerry problem. Now, if Dallas falls to 1-3, A, not gonna be surprised. B, not gonna be like, oh my god, Brian Schottenheimer's gonna get fired. No, they just hired the dude. I'm not. But everything is going to everything with the Dallas is going to make itself known in the next 3 games. If they lose to Green Bay, I understand. But if Dallas loses to the Jets, Carolina, and Washington, with Washington still not having Jaden Daniels around, and they'll be 1-6 if they lose those next 3, that might be a problem for Dallas. Now, on the flip side of Green Bay, they have a bye week after this week. And then after that, they come back 4:25 on CBS. They'll take on Cincinnati, which that game probably will get flexed because Cincinnati looks like pure trash. Then they're at Arizona and at Pittsburgh. So getting a road win will be vital for them. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark on the call on NBC for Sunday Night Football starting at 8:20 Eastern. I just think Dallas sucks. They just do. They don't. They look like crap against Chicago. I mean, it was not pretty. So if you think you're going to have better results against Green Bay, you're sadly mistaken. Give me Green Bay on the road. Micah Parsons will get a sack or probably 2 on Dak Prescott, his old teammate. He says he feels guilty, but probably the baddest money. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna feel glad because Jerry Jones deserved this. So he's legally gonna be sacking Jerry. He's gonna be thinking of Jerry when he's sacking Dak. It's gonna be great. But give me Green Bay on the road. They'll go to 3-1. Dallas will fall to 1-3, and they'll set themselves up for their Week 5 bye week for Green Bay, and then come back and take on some quality opponents, starting with Cincinnati in week number 6. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit of a long one with 7 matchups, but next week in week number 5, we're going to have 4 teams on bye weeks. That will be Chicago, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and of course Green Bay, as I've mentioned. So this will be the last week until Thanksgiving, where we're going to have all the teams, all 16 matchups, to talk about, or at least present to you. But until then, this is your man Dylan signing off for week number 4 of the NFL season. I'll be making my college football video either tomorrow or Friday, so be on the lookout for that. But I'll be seeing you this weekend. Have a great day, everyone.